Hurricane Carol in 1954. These storms have taught us many lessons. One of the most important is that it's never too early to prepare for the devastating impacts of hurricanes. And while we're here today to preview an outlook of what trends will shape this year's hurricane season, it's crucial to remember that it only takes one storm to damage your home, neighborhood, and community. Preparedness is key to the resilience that we need, and now is the time to get ready for the upcoming hurricane season. So now let's talk about the upcoming hurricane season. NOAA is predicting an above normal 2022 Atlantic hurricane season, which would make this year the 7th consecutive above normal season. Specifically, there's a 65% chance of an above normal season, a 25% chance of a near normal season, and just a 10% chance of a below normal season. For the range of storms expected, NOAA calls for a 70% probability of the following ranges: 14 to 21 named storms with top winds of at least 39 miles per hour. Of these, 6 to 10 will become hurricanes with top winds of at least 74 miles per hour. And of these, 3 to 6 major hurricanes ranked as categories 3, 4, or 5 with top winds of at least 111 miles per hour. Let me say a word about the accuracy of the forecasting and how NOAA's forecasts have improved in recent years to better predict the storms and protect life and property throughout the hurricane season. Since the year 2000, we've seen a 57% improvement in the average 72-hour National Hurricane Center track error in the Atlantic Basin. This can be attributed in part to NOAA's flagship weather model, the Global Forecast System, incorporating things like dropsondes and hurricane hunter flight data into its analysis. Our improved track forecast has allowed us to more accurately pinpoint the area most at risk, which reduces the size of areas that may need to evacuate when a hurricane threatens. This improvement is illustrated in the National Hurricane Center's track forecast cone, also known as the cone of uncertainty, which represents the probable track of the center of a tropical cyclone up to 5 days out. The cone of uncertainty has gotten significantly smaller since 2005. We've also seen improvements in our intensity forecast. Forecasters can now more accurately predict changes to hurricane intensity early in a storm's life cycle. The National Hurricane Center's average intensity error is now 40% lower than it was in 2000. Looking ahead, NOAA will triple our operational supercomputing capacity for weather and climate this summer. This upgrade will allow for more detailed, higher resolution Earth models that can handle larger ensembles of models, meaning more numerous calculations, more advanced physical considerations, and improved capability to assimilate the data collected out in the storm. Along with better science, will ultimately make way for better hurricane forecast model guidance for years to come, which is what the forecasters, of course, rely on. So before I close, I'd like to take a moment to give a special thanks to the skilled and dedicated forecasters at the National Hurricane Center in Miami, who work around the clock to deliver timely and accurate forecasts each and every hurricane season. Better systems, better sensors, better satellites, better aircraft, of course, are critical. It really boils down to the people who make the forecasts, as well as the hurricane hunters, both ours and those of the U.S. Air Force Reserve out of Keesler Air Force Base, who fly hundreds of hours each hurricane season to support critical hurricane forecasting and research, and the numerous members of the emergency management community who are so critical to protecting lives and property. And last but not least, the forecasters at the National Weather Service forecast offices around the country who work year-round to provide weather forecasts, watches, and warnings that the entire nation can depend on. I also want to call out the experts at the Climate Prediction Center who develop the seasonal outlooks, run the models, assimilate the data, including the hurricane seasonal outlook, which are used as a tool by decision makers and planners and emergency managers and the public when planning for the season ahead. So with that, I conclude my remarks. It is my pleasure now to turn it over to Mayor Adams. Mr. Mayor.
Remember the good old days when you're lucky if you have one camera to hear this forecast. Now we're glued to the TV. We're worried about hurricane seasons because now the hurricane seasons, they have taken an entirely new meaning. And we are concerned about not only the damage to property, but also lives lost. And we have to refocus to this new reality of dealing with.
All right, here we are, and we just got official word on the approaching 2022 Atlantic hurricane season. I'm Fox 35 Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Jamie King, joined by the lovely Fox 35 Storm Team Meteorologist Allison Gargaro. And Allison, no, we are not shocked nor surprised. We kind of expected this above average season projection.
Yes, that's exactly right. Actually, Colorado State University already came out with their projection. It was also above average. Now, something I thought was interesting that the folks at NOAA were saying, this is actually the 7th consecutive season of above average activity.
That's
so
right.
no, we were not surprised at all. A season average would be 14 named storms, and they're predicting anywhere from 14 to 21,
Incredible.
Jamie, hurricanes, right in the same range, and then major hurricanes 3 to 6. So something that we'll be watching very, very closely right here in the Fox 35 Storm Center.
Exactly, Al. And, you know, last season was not as historic as the previous,
Correct.
but it really was very active. 21 named storms. We had 7 hurricanes, 4 of those major. And I think back, Al, and you were here with me here in the Storm Center. We watched dangerous Hurricane Sam over the open Atlantic. I mean, some of these storms were literally monsters. You know, sometimes you talk hurricanes and that term gets overused a little bit, but a true monster. I mean, nightmarish scenario over the open Atlantic.
That's
and
exactly
it's a similar outlook this year. Hard to say if we get a monster like Sam, but it's totally possible, and you see the major hurricane projection for this season at 3 to 6. So that in itself can be a little bit alarming.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And Sam, I even remember Ida. I was sitting in the Storm Center watching that center of circulation, the eye actually make its way onshore in Louisiana, and very, very gusty winds as well as the heavy rain.
The surge, incredible.
That was very incredible.
Incredible. And, you know, we want to compare and contrast here because we've also have seen projections coming out of Colorado State University. And that outlook was issued a little earlier here, slightly above average from Colorado State University. And their projection for the season of note here, very similar to what NOAA is going with right now. So there is that similarity. You know, the compare and contrast, I mean, pretty much on the money.
That's exactly right. They are thinking about 19 named storms, 9 hurricanes, and 4 of them being major. So just like you said, right in that range.
Exactly. And you see the percent more than normal here, 36% for named storms, 29% for actual hurricane development, and major storms at 33%. So very active. And, you know, we've got the name here for you. A lot of folks like to check out the list and see if they've got themselves or maybe a loved one on here. And our A storm, Allie, you know, it's something that has really blossomed over the several last consecutive hurricane seasons was early development in that area in the Gulf of Mexico, right, with those A storms. So Alex is going to top things off here.
Yeah, and we're just 1 week away from, actually, a week and a day away from the start of hurricane season. That one day. So something that Fox 35 Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Jamie King and I, we are always watching the modeling. And when I say always, we are in the middle of commercial breaks and we're saying, hey, what does the GFS, what does the Euro model say? And it looks like things at least quiet for now. For now is the key word there.
And, you know, there's been a few things already bubbling up in the Gulf of Mexico.
That's exactly
and
right.
We're going to get to that in a second here. Some of these, what we call these homegrown storms, right? They develop very close to shore. They could spin up rather quickly and bring some pretty major impacts to some of the coastal areas. Yeah, exactly. So again, that's the list right now. We've been showing this to you on the news here. Of course, myself and Allie on Good Day Orlando, and our evening Met, Brooks Gardner, a true hurricane aficionado.
Yes, he is.
Does a great job. He's been up with the hurricane hunters. That's something I've not done at a 24-year career, but Brooks has gone up.
And then he was with in Houston for Harvey, and I think their station even flooded. They had to move locations.
Correct.
So he knows everything about the hurricanes.
When it comes to tropics, yeah. So rest assured, we've got you covered. We've got your back. And it starts with early analysis, you know, we look over the tropical satellites, Allison, and there's been a few things, not really out here what we call the MDR, that main development region. We typically turn our sights this way a little deeper into the season, right? The Cape Verde storms, we've had a couple of these waves come off of Africa already, but really not a very favorable environment just yet, as you mentioned. But Allison, it's the homegrown stuff. It's stuff like this blob here that's been festering about coastal Texas all morning. I mean, a lightning display in the northern Gulf.
Display. I mean, 2,000 lightning strikes within just 30 minutes that we were tracking earlier, and right now it's about 13, almost 1,400. So a lot of lightning. These are very, very active storms. Seeing it right now.
Look at that. This feature interesting because we had something similar to this over the weekend, and we talk about the homegrown storms. There was a big blob, as we call it as weather folks, right? It came off the Gulf South in Louisiana, kind of hung around. It was a complex of showers and storms. This is the same system that was over central Texas that brought that tremendous tornado over northern Texas yesterday. That is now draped south in the Gulf. And we noticed earlier, this is little
you can see it right there.
Right, a little hook right there. And as we take you on a little bit tighter, you get a better vantage point of this. Here you can see the kind of what I call a little piggy tail of moisture wrapping back into that. The lightning production has been insane. Now an active severe thunderstorm warned area for Galveston and now Harris County, Texas. So that's bringing some juice aboard right now.
Yeah, it's going to be moving right on board. And this is a perfect example of what our Fox 35 Storm Tracker radar can bring to you and your family. So make sure that you depend on us and watch us if we do have anything moving on shore and really anything across the region. We can track all of those lightning strikes, see all of the rain, and actually go down to street level to see how it is impacting those folks that this storm may be over. So that's something that we are always watching and tracking, even on Good Day Orlando, just like this morning.
We've got that dual pole capability, right, where we can actually go into a storm cell, an outer rain band from a landfalling hurricane, God forbid. You know, I always say it's not a matter of if, it's when, right? So rest assured we're ready. With that dual pole technology, we can scan literally like an X-ray, right? The guts of whatever that is coming in, analyzing winds coming toward it away from our local weather radars. Here, our live side, our next gen radar that was installed several months ago. Top notch, bar none, the best across the region. So
it really is.
We've got the tools and we've got everything certainly to get it done. Now, Al, we talk about the hurricane categories now. A lot of folks are due to Florida, right?
Yes.
I can't tell you how many people I've met out there at Publix, at Target. Hey, we watched the show. We're brand new. We're here from Cleveland, Ohio. All right. Well, welcome, Cleveland, Ohio.
Yes. We're glad you're here.
Welcome to hurricane season. It's knocking on the door. You know, June 1, you know, it's the start of the season. Doesn't mean we're going to get slammed with hurricanes.
Exactly.
Things,
not right away, at least.
You know, the atmosphere's marinating right now, right? So anything can happen over the next several months.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's something that we watch, you know, if anything, they're going to be small, maybe fizzle out. But as we get into the middle of hurricane season, that's when we could be seeing some stronger storms. So a major would be Category 3, Category 4, or Category 5 storms with those very, very strong winds. But something else, Jamie, is the Saharan air layer. And we talked about it last week. We love to see this dust. It's a plume of dust that's moving off the west coast of Africa across the Atlantic, and then it actually made its way to here in east central Florida. So we had pretty sunrises and sunsets. Beautiful. That's what we get now, but it actually helps squash any further development of those storms that we do see making their way across the Atlantic.
We like to see this during July, August, September, you know, when those big behemoth storms develop, the Cape Verde season. Also of note, it's not great for allergy sufferers, I could tell you that, but for the local photogs, they love this stuff because the way that the dust particles rebound the sunlight and all that makes for just gorgeous sunrises and sunsets. So I do want to address, you know, the unexpected hazards within hurricanes. You know, Ali, we talk about landfalling systems along the coast, but one thing I want to just reiterate, and we've talked about this in our preseason hurricane special, is the inland tornadic threat in that right front quadrant, right? Yeah,
and I really quick just want to touch on something. I went to storm school actually last week, and some of the questions that the fourth graders were asking me, hey, let's talk about the quadrant. Which side is the better side to be on? And there's no better side, but we always say west side is best side. And the northeast quadrant, that's where you have the likelihood to get these twisters and tornadoes. And we've seen it in so so many storms throughout the years. Just a few of them on our list. Little warning, Ivan had 120 tornadoes, Harvey 52, Andrew 29.
That was my storm
we were just
down
talking
South
about
Florida,
that in
yeah.
the back, and then about 25 tornadoes with Hurricane Irma.
All right, so again, the projection's out, an above normal season, and I want to just reiterate to everybody, our team is committed to keeping you and your family members safe. I mean, it's what we do day in, day out, whether there's sunshine and beautiful weather or God forbid, a landfalling tropical system. Just keep it here to Fox, and we're certainly going to keep you up to date this 2022 Atlantic hurricane season.
That's exactly right, Jamie. You can depend on the Fox 35 Storm Team.
Thanks for joining us. Have a good one.